Whoa, that's strong.
What is it? Are you alright?
I think so.
In the heart of the twin moon world of Varellus, nestled between shimmering obsidian spires and gardens that bloomed with phosphorescent flora, stood the grand palace of Zintra, a marvel of alien architecture woven from living crystal and ancient memory stone. Within its echoing halls, Princess Lyra of House Xandis paced restlessly, her green skin catching the soft violet light filtering through the arched windows, her long emerald hair coiled in ceremonial braids that hummed faintly with ancestral energy. She was proud, sharp-tongued, and fiercely protective of her people, yet burdened by a secret. Her blood carried the rare Sylvian Essence, a life force so potent it could heal wounds, awaken dormant powers, or, according to forbidden texts, even bind souls across species. And now, standing awkwardly near a marble fountain shaped like a coiled serpent, was the human who had somehow become entangled in her fate. His name was Elias Thorne, a soldier, though he looked more like a scholar caught in a storm. Lean but broad-shouldered with sun-browned skin, and eyes the color of storm clouds. Elias had arrived on Varley's 3 weeks prior as part of a peace delegation following the brutal skirmishes along the asteroid belt of Koroth. He hadn't come to fight. He'd come to negotiate. But war had a way of twisting intentions. During a surprise raid by rogue Separatists, Elias had shielded Lyra from a plasma blast meant for her heart, taking the full brunt on his back. The palace medics had worked frantically, but his vitals plummeted. In desperation, Lyra, against every royal decree, had sliced open her wrist and let her luminous green blood drip into his mouth. He'd survived, but something had changed. Now, days later, Elias sat in the royal infirmary turned recovery chamber, weak but lucid, staring at the ornate goblet beside his bed. It held a small amount of liquid, thick, iridescent, unmistakably green. He didn't remember much of the night. He nearly died. Only flashes, warmth spreading through his chest, a voice whispering in a language he didn't know, but somehow understood. And then dreams, vivid, impossible dreams of flying through nebula with wings made of starlight, of hearing the heartbeat of planets, of feeling Lyra's sorrow as if it were his own. He reached for the goblet, drawn by an instinct deeper than hunger. No! Lyra burst through the chamber doors, her bare feet slapping against the cool stone. Her ceremonial robes fluttered behind her like startled wings. "That's my blood, human. Stop drinking." But Elias had already taken a sip. The moment the liquid touched his tongue, the world tilted, not violently, but like a veil being gently pulled aside. Colors sharpened into frequencies he could almost hear. The air thickened with unseen currents, and beneath the scent of incense and healing herbs, he caught the faint metallic tang of her presence. Like rain on copper, he blinked, dazed, and looked up at her. "It tastes like home," he murmured, voice rough. Lyra froze, her eyes large, almond-shaped, and the deep green of forest canopies widened in horror. "You shouldn't. You can't. That was only for emergency transfusion. The Sulfian bond. It's not meant for humans. It's forbidden." Elias set the goblet down slowly, his hands trembling, not from weakness, but from a strange new energy humming beneath his skin. "I didn't know," he said honestly. "I just felt empty, like part of me was missing. And when I saw this," he gestured helplessly, "it called to me." She stepped closer, fists clenched. "You drank my essence, my lineage, my soul thread. Do you have any idea what that means?" Her voice cracked, betraying fear beneath the anger. Before he could answer, the palace alarms blared. A low, resonant chime that vibrated through the bones. Red light pulsed along the walls. Lyra's expression shifted instantly from fury to command. "Separatists," she hissed. "They've breached the outer sanctum." Elias tried to stand, wincing as pain flared in his ribs. But then something astonishing happened. The pain didn't vanish, but it rearranged itself. He felt it, acknowledged it, and then moved through it as if it were mist. His body responded with unnatural grace. He grabbed the ceremonial dagger from the bedside table, not for show, but because instinct told him he'd need it. "You're still recovering," Lyra snapped, already striding toward the door. "I feel better than I have in years," Elias replied, falling into step beside her. "Better than human." She shot him a glance, torn between suspicion and reluctant hope. If the bond has taken root, your nervous system is syncing with mine. You'll feel what I feel, see what I see. And if I die, you won't." He interrupted, meeting her gaze. "Not while I'm breathing." They raced through the palace corridors, past stunned attendants and armored guards, scrambling to defensive positions. The Separatists, fanatics who believed the royal bloodline had grown too soft, too willing to ally with off-worlders, had infiltrated through the old aqueducts beneath the throne room. Their leader, a scarred warlord named Varric, wielded a sonic disruptor capable of shattering bone with a single pulse. As they rounded a corner, a blast of concussive force sent them both sprawling. Elias rolled, shielding Lyra with his body, and felt a jolt. Not from the impact, but from her sudden spike of terror. It wasn't for herself. It was for him. The realization stunned him more than the explosion. "You're afraid I'll die protecting you," he said, helping her up. "Of course I am," she snapped, cheeks flushing a deeper green. "You're reckless. You don't understand our ways. And now you've drunk my blood like it was wine at a feast." "It wasn't wine," he said quietly. "It was a lifeline, and I'm not letting go." They found the throne room in chaos. Varric stood before the obsidian throne, his disruptor aimed at the elderly High Chancellor, who knelt defiantly around them. Bodies lay scattered. Palace guards, courtiers, even young cadets from the Royal Academy. Lyra's breath hitched. "My brother," she whispered, spotting a fallen figure in silver armor near the D's. Elias didn't hesitate. He moved not with human speed, but with something fluid and precise, as if time itself bent slightly around him. He tackled Varric from the side, the disruptor firing harmlessly into the ceiling. The warlord roared, swinging a gauntlet fist, but Elias dodged, guided by flashes of intuition that felt like Lyra's thoughts brushing against his mind. "Left, out. He favors his right leg." He didn't question it. He acted, twisting. He drove the dagger into the joint of Varric's armor. The warlord howled, stumbling back, but more Separatists poured in, dozens of them, armed and fanatical. Lyra raised her hands, chanting in the old tongue. The air around her shimmered, and vines of pure energy erupted from the floor, ensnaring several attackers. But she was exhausted, weakened from the blood loss. Her knees buckled. Elias caught her before she fell. And in that moment, something extraordinary happened. A surge of warmth flowed between them, not just from him to her, but a circuit completing. Her strength returned, magnified, his senses sharpened further. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. "He's linked to me," Varric snarled, recognizing the glow now emanating faintly from Elias's veins. "The human car's royal essence. Kill him. Purify the bloodline." The battle raged. Elias fought not with brute force, but with uncanny precision, anticipating enemy moves as if reading their minds. Lyra with spells of light and shadow, her power amplified by the strange resonance between them. When a Separatist lunged at her from behind, Elias spun without looking, dagger flashing, because he'd felt her gasp before she even made it. Finally, only Varric remained, bleeding but defiant. "You think this changes anything?" he spat. "A human bonded to a princess. The council will exile you both. Your people will call you traitor. Hers will call you abomination." Lyra stepped forward, her voice ringing with authority. "Then let them speak. But today this palace stands, and I choose who stand with me." She turned to Elias. Her anger had softened into something unreadable, or the first fragile threads of trust. "You drank my blood," she said softly, "not out of greed, not out of conquest, but because you felt incomplete." He nodded. "And now I feel whole. Not because of the blood, but because of you." A silence fell heavy with implication. Around them, the wounded groaned. The fires crackled, and the twin moons cast long shadows through the broken dome above. But in that wreckage, something new had begun. Later, in the quiet aftermath, as healers tended to the wounded and engineers sealed the breaches, Elias sat with Lyra in the royal garden, the one where the flowers glowed like captured stars. She handed him a cup of herbal tea, her fingers brushing his. A spark passed between them, warm and electric. "They'll demand an explanation," she said, staring at the sky. "The council, the elders, even my mother, the empress. Let them ask." Elias replied, I'll tell them the truth. I drank your blood because I was dying, but I stayed because I wanted to live with you. She laughed then, a sound like wind chimes in a summer storm. You're ridiculous. A human quoting poetry after nearly getting us both killed. I'm also hungry, he admitted, grinning. Do you have anything that doesn't involve glowing fungi? She rolled her eyes, but smiled. For someone bonded to a princess, you have very pedestrian cravings. Yet, as the night deepened, neither moved to leave. They sat side by side, shoulders touching, watching the constellations shift above. Elias felt the slow, steady rhythm of her heartbeat sync with his own. He no longer dreamed of distant stars. He was living among them. Days turned into weeks, the palace rebuilt. The Separatist threat was quelled, though whispers of dissent lingered in the outer provinces. Elias, once a foreign emissary, now walked the halls with quiet purpose. He trained with the royal guard, not as a warrior, but as a bridge, teaching them human tactics, learning their energy-weaving arts. Children peeked from behind pillars, giggling at the green-blooded human, who could make flowers bloom with a touch. Lyra, meanwhile, found herself changing too. She spoke less with cold authority, more with warmth. She visited the infirmary daily, not just to check on the wounded, but to sit with Elias as he recovered fully. Though fully now meant something different. He could sense approaching storms hours before they broke. He could calm agitated beasts with a hum. And when Lyra had nightmares of the battle, he'd appear at her door before she even called out, drawn by the echo of her fear in his own chest. One evening, as they stood on the highest balcony overlooking the capital city, a sea of lights stretching to the horizon, Lyra finally asked the question that had haunted her. What do you want, Elias? Truly, you could return to Earth. Your people need you. Your world is at peace now. He looked at her, the moonlight catching the faint green tracery beneath his skin. Proof of the bond, visible only in certain light. My world is here, he said simply. Wherever you are. She turned away, but not before he saw the tears glistening in her eyes. It's not that simple. Our union would be unprecedented, dangerous. Some say the Sylvian bond cannot sustain across species long term, that it will consume one of us. Then we'll be consumed together, he said, stepping closer, or we'll rewrite the rules. Isn't that what royals do? She laughed, wiping her eyes. You're impossible and you're stuck with me. In the weeks that followed, the Empress summoned them both to the Chamber of Echoes, a sacred space where truth could not be hidden. The matriarch, tall and regal, with skin like aged jade and hair woven with living vines, studied Elias with ancient eyes. You carry my daughter's essence, she said, voice like rustling leaves. Do you understand the weight of that? I do, Elias replied, and I accept it not as a gift, but as a responsibility. The Empress nodded slowly, then to everyone's shock, she placed a hand on his chest. The bond is stable, stronger than any recorded in our archives. It seems the universe has chosen. Lyra's breath caught. Mother, does this mean? It means, the Empress said, a rare smile touching her lips, that you may court him properly. No more battlefield transfusions. No more secret sips from goblets. If you wish to bind your lives, do it with honor, with ceremony, with joy. And so began the courtship, not of politics, but of hearts. They walked the crystalline forests, shared meals under the twin moons, argued over star charts and ancient philosophies. Elias learned to braid her hair with threads of moon silk. Lyra taught him the songs of her ancestors, her voice weaving through his dreams. But peace, as always, was fragile. Rumors spread of a new faction rising in the southern Westess, followers of the old blood, who believed the Sylvian Essence should never mix with lesser species. They called Elias a parasite, a thief, and they vowed to sever the bond by any means necessary. One night, as Elias slept, he awoke to a sharp pain in his arm. A dart protruded from his bicep, its tip glistening with black venom. Shadows moved outside his window. He tried to call out, but his voice failed. His vision blurred. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Lyra's face, terrified, furious, and utterly determined. When he awoke again, he was chained in a cavern deep beneath the desert, the air thick with the scent of sulfur and decay. Before him stood a figure cloaked in tattered robes, face hidden beneath a mask of bone. The bond must be broken, the figure intoned. And there is only one way. You must drink her blood until she fades, or she must drink yours until you turn to dust. Elias struggled against the chains. Never. The figure laughed. You say that now. But love makes fools of even the strongest. And when she comes for you, and she will, you'll beg to save her. Back at the palace, Lyra refused to wait. She gathered a small team of loyal warriors, including her younger brother, Prince Kale, who had recovered from his injuries and now bore a newfound respect for the human who'd saved his sister. We ride at dawn, she declared, strapping on her energy blade, and we bring him home. Kale hesitated. Sister, if the bond is severed violently, it could kill you both. Then we won't let it be violent, she said, eyes blazing. We'll rewrite the ending. As the rescue party sped across the dunes on skittering sand beasts, Elias in his cell focused on the one thing the captors couldn't take, the thread connecting him to Lyra. Faint but unbroken, he poured all his will into it. Not a plea, but a promise. I'm waiting. Come find me. And miles away, beneath the sky strewn with auroras, Lyra felt it. A whisper in her blood, a heartbeat not her own, steady and strong. She smiled grimly, urging her mount faster. Hold on, Elias, she whispered to the wind. I'm coming. The battle in the cavern would be fierce. Spells would clash with gunfire. Loyalties would be tested. But through it all, one truth would remain unshaken. That love, even between worlds, could forge something stronger than steel, deeper than blood. And when they finally stood together again, battered but alive, Elias took Lyra's hand and pressed it to his chest, where her essence still glowed beneath the skin. Still tastes like home, he said. She leaned her forehead against his. Then stay. And he did. The rescue should have been the end of it. The triumphant return, the healing embrace, the quiet vow beneath the twin moons. But fate, especially on Virilis, rarely honored neat conclusions. Back in the palace, Elias's recovery was swift, yet unsettling. The venom from the dart had been neutralized, but something lingered, a residue that made his dreams jagged and fevered. He began seeing flashes of a place he'd never been. A vast underground chamber lined with obsidian pillars, where green-skinned figures knelt before a pulsing orb of black light. And always at the center stood a woman who looked exactly like Lyra, except her eyes were voids and her voice echoed with the hunger of a dying star. At first he dismissed it as trauma, but then Lyra started having the same dreams. It's not possible, she whispered one night, pacing her chambers as Elias sat by the window, staring at the southern dunes. Unless they've awakened her. Her, Elias asked. Lyra hesitated, then sank onto a velvet djinn, her emerald hair spilling over her shoulders like liquid jade. My twin, she said softly. Lyra. She was stillborn, or so we were told, but the old blood texts speak of a shadow twin, born of the same womb, but severed from life to preserve the Sylvian Essence in the surviving heir. They say, if the bond is shared with an outsider, the shadow may awaken. Elias went cold. You mean your sister isn't dead? No, Lyra said, eyes haunted. She was entombed in stasis beneath the Westess of Kath, fed by stolen life force for centuries. And now, because of us, she's stirring. Before they could act, the Empress summoned them, not to the throne room, but to the Vault of Echoes, a sealed chamber deep beneath the palace, where the royal bloodline's darkest secrets were kept. There, projected in shimmering light, was a message intercepted from the southern wastes. The Shadow Queen rises. The false bond shall be unmade. The true heir returns. Worse still, the palace sensors detected a surge of energy emanating from the wastes, growing stronger by the hour. And then came the final blow. Prince Kale vanished during a routine patrol near the border. He went alone, Lyra said, voice tight with guilt. He thought he could reason with them. He doesn't understand what Lyra is. Elias placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we go get him together. But the Empress blocked their path. No, she said, her voice heavy with sorrow. If Lyra walks again, she will not stop until the Sylvian line is purified by fire if necessary. And if you two are bonded, your presence will only accelerate her awakening. You must be separated temporarily. Lyra recoiled. Separate us? That could kill us. The alternative is planetary annihilation. The Empress countered. I will not lose both my daughters to this ancient curse. That night, under orders from the Royal Guard, Elias was confined to the Sky Spire, a floating tower used for diplomatic isolation. Lyra, forbidden to see him, paced her chambers like a caged storm. But love, especially one forged in blood and battle, defies walls. Using the faint resonance of their bond, Elias focused his thoughts into a single image, the secret passage behind the garden fountain, the one they discovered during their courtship. At midnight, Lyra slipped through the shadows, heart pounding, and found him waiting. We're not letting fear decide our fate, Elias said, taking her hands. If your sister is alive, she's being used. And Kale's in danger. We finish this together, or not at all. They fled the palace on a stolen sky skiff, racing toward the wastes as the southern horizon pulsed with unnatural light. Below them, the desert cracked open in places, revealing veins of glowing green energy. Sylvian ley lines drawn toward a central point. They found Kale in a ruined temple, suspended in a cage of living thorns, unconscious but alive, and standing before him, cloaked in robes woven from starlight and shadow, was Lyra. She turned as they entered. She was Lyra's mirror. Same height, same build, same emerald skin and flowing green hair, but her eyes were black pits, and her smile held no warmth. Ah, she purred, the thief and the traitor. You've come to return what you stole. I didn't steal anything, Elias said, stepping forward. I saved her life. You corrupted it. Lyra hissed. The Sylvian essence was meant to remain pure, untouched by lesser species. But you diluted it with your fragile, fleeting humanity. She raised a hand, and the ground trembled. Now I will reclaim it, starting with your heart. She lunged, not at Elias, but at Lyra. The sisters clashed in a whirlwind of light and shadow, energy crackling between them like lightning. Elias tried to intervene, but invisible force hurled him back. He hit the wall hard, tasting blood. Then something unexpected happened as Lyra gripped Lyra's throat, drawing on her essence. Lyra didn't fight back. Instead, she whispered, I remember you, sister, in the womb. You sang to me when the storms raged. Lyra froze. A flicker of confusion crossed her face. I was never allowed to live. But you are alive, Lyra said, tears streaming down her cheeks. And you don't have to be a weapon. You can be family for a heartbeat. The darkness in Lyra's eyes wavered, but then the black orb in the chamber pulsed, and her expression hardened. Sentiment is weakness, she snarled, and weakness dies. She thrust her hand toward Lyra's chest, aiming for her heart. Elias, driven by instinct deeper than thought, did the only thing he could. He threw himself between them and let Lyra's hand pierce his own chest. Green blood, his and hers mingled, splattered across the stone floor. Lyra gasped, not in triumph, but in shock because as Elias's blood touched her skin, memories flooded her. Not just Lyra's, but his earth sunsets, childhood laughter, the taste of rain, the ache of loneliness, the joy of finding someone who sees you truly sees you. And in that flood, she saw herself not as a weapon, but as a child who never got to grow up. The black orb shattered, the temple shook. The thorn cage dissolved, and Kale tumbled free, groaning awake. Lyra staggered back, clutching her head. What have you done to me? Nothing, Elias said, collapsing to his knees, blood soaking his tunic. We just gave you a choice. Lyra rushed to his side, pressing her hands to his wound. Don't you dare die on me, human. I'm not. He managed, smiling weakly. Your blood won't let me. And indeed, the wound began to seal, not with human scarring, but with faint green tracery, like vines knitting flesh back together. Lyra watched, trembling. I felt your love for her, for this broken world is overwhelming. You're not broken, Lyra said gently, extending a hand. You're just lost. Come home. Silence stretched. Then slowly Lyra took her sister's hand, but their relief was short-lived. From the ruins above, a new voice echoed, cold, mechanical, utterly devoid of emotion. Subject Lael has been compromised. Initiate protocol eclipse. A drone descended through the shattered roof, its single red eye scanning the scene. Behind it came more, Dozens of them, sleek and silent, bearing the insignia of the Galactic Concordance. Elias's blood ran cold. That's our tech. Lyra's eyes narrowed. You mean Earth's? No, Elias said, horror dawning. Not Earth, the corporation. They've been here all along. It turned out the skirmishes along the asteroid belt hadn't been random. The Zenitech Corporation had been secretly mining Varellus for Sylvian Essence, using Separatists as proxies. They'd engineered Lyra's awakening, hoping to harvest her power, and now that the bond between Elias and Lyra had stabilized, they saw an even greater opportunity. A hybrid life form capable of channeling the essence indefinitely. They want to dissect us, Elias realized. Turn us into batteries. Lyra stepped forward, her voice now steady, her eyes clear. Then let them try. She raised both hands, and the very earth responded. The ruins rose around them, forming a fortress of stone and light. Kale, still groggy, activated his comm link. Palace Guard, this is Prince Kale. We have a code, Umbra. Corporate incursion in the Westes. Send everything. What followed was a battle unlike any Varellus had seen. A fusion of ancient magic and futuristic warfare. Lyra and Lyra fought side by side, their powers amplified by their reunion. Elias, though wounded, coordinated tactics with Kale, using his human ingenuity to sabotage drone networks and reroute energy flows. In the chaos, Elias confronted the lead drone's commander, a human in a sleek black suit, face obscured by a visor. Stand down, Elias, the man said. You've served your purpose. I was never your pawn, Elias growled, and you won't take them. He triggered a pulse from a stolen disruptor, frying the man's neural implant. The commander collapsed, twitching. As dawn broke over the wastes, the drones retreated. Their mission failed for now, but the threat remained. The corporation knew about the bond, and they would return. Back at the palace, the Empress listened in silence as they recounted everything. Then she did something unprecedented. She declared full alliance with Earth, not with its governments, but with its people. And she named Elias not just consort, but Shield of the Twin Queens. For Lyra, too, was welcomed home, her title restored. Weeks later, in a ceremony beneath the twin moons, Elias and Lyra stood before the court, hands clasped. No grand vows were needed. Their bond had already been tested in blood, fire, and shadow. But as the crowd cheered, Elias caught a glimpse of something in the sky. A distant ship, dark and silent, watching. He squeezed Lyra's hand. It's not over, he murmured. She leaned close, her breath warm against his ear. Then we'll face it together always. And in the gardens below, Lyra smiled for the first time. Not as a weapon, but as a sister, as family. The stars above burned brighter, as if in witness. The war with the Zenitech Corporation did not end in a single battle, but in a slow unraveling of shadows. After their failed incursion into the waste of Korath, the corporation retreated, not in defeat, but in calculation. They had seen what they needed. Proof that human-alien hybridization could stabilize the volatile Sylvian essence. And where profit beckoned, they would return. But this time, Varellus was ready. With Elias as both strategist and symbol, a living bridge between species, the royal court forged an unprecedented alliance. Not just with Earth's governments, but with its scientists, its rebels, its conscience. Whistleblowers from within the corporation leaked data streams, revealing decades of illegal bio-extraction across the galaxy. Public outrage erupted. Earth's unified Senate condemned Zenitech, freezing its assets and stripping its charter. Still, whispers lingered. Rumors of hidden labs on ice moons, of cloned Sylvian vessels, grown in vats of children, human and alien bred for essence harvesting. Elias knew peace wouldn't last unless the roots of greed were torn out. So he made a choice. Not as a soldier, not even as a consort, but as a father. For Lyra carried new life within her twins, the healers confirmed. Their tiny heartbeats already resonating with both human rhythm and Sylvian hum. And Lyra, once a weapon of vengeance, now stood guard over them like a lioness over cubs, her darkness transmuted into fierce protection. I won't let them grow up in fear, Elias told the Empress one evening as they watched the twins' first sonogram shimmer in midair. A swirl of green and gold light. I want them to know stars, not war. The Empress, older now. Her vines threaded with silver, placed a hand on a shoulder. Then build something worth protecting. And so he did. With Lyra's blessing and Lyra's cunning, Elias founded the Sanctuary Accord, a neutral zone orbiting Varellus, where humans, Varelians, and other displaced species could live, learn, and heal together. No weapons, no corporations, just open skies and shared tables. The first school opened beneath a dome of living crystal. Its curriculum taught, in 3 languages, standard Velian chant and laughter. Years passed. The twins Lyra and Jace grew fast. Their skin a soft olive kissed, with emerald undertones. Their hair a cascade of green gold strands that shimmered in moonlight. They could speak to plants calm storms with song, and once during a festival made the palace fountain bloom with floating leaves that sang lullabies. Elias, now gray at the temples but strong as ever, taught them earth tales of dragons, of oceans, of kindness in small places. Lyra taught them the old ways, how to weave starlight into shields, how to listen to the planet's breath, how to lead without ruling. Lyra, no longer shadow, but sister, became head mistress of the Sanctuary Academy. She never married, but she was never alone. Children flocked to her, orphans of war, hybrids cast out by purists, even a few repentant ex-corporate scientists seeking redemption. She called them all my little sparks. Peace didn't mean silence. There were still skirmishes on the fringe worlds, still smugglers trading in forbidden essence. But now, when danger came, it wasn't met with armies, but with bridges, with schools, with stories. One spring evening, as the twin moons aligned in perfect harmony, the entire family gathered in the royal garden. Lyra, age 8, presented Elias with a carved wooden flute. "It sings your heartbeat," she said proudly. Jace, 7, handed Lyra a seedling grown from the first flower that bloomed after the final battle. "It's unbreakable," he whispered. They sat together, Elias, Lyra, Lyra, the twins, Prince Kale, now ambassador to the outer rings, and even the Empress, frail but radiant. Around them, the sanctuary lights twinkled in the sky like scattered stars. "Come home." Lyra leaned her head on Elias's shoulder. "Remember when I screamed at you for drinking my blood?" He chuckled. "How could I forget? You looked ready to strangle me with your braid." "And now," she said softly, "you're the heart of this world." "No," he corrected gently, kissing her forehead. "We are." Later that night, as the children slept curled together under a blanket woven from moon silk, Elias stood on the balcony with Lyra. The desert stretched below, quiet and vast. "You ever miss the fight?" she asked. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but I'd rather miss it than need it." She smiled, a real full smile, rare and bright. "Good, because we've got a lot more living to do." And they did. For decades, the Xandis household thrived. More children came. 3 more, each a blend of Earth and Varellus, each carrying the bond in their own way. Their home echoed with music, arguments over homework, the scent of spiced root bread, and the soft hum of shared dreams. When Elias finally passed old, surrounded by family, his hand clasped in Lyra's, his last words were simple, worth every drop. Lyra lived another 20 years, guiding the Accord into a golden age. On her deathbed, she held the hands of her children and grandchildren and whispered to the wind, "Tell him I'm coming." And somewhere beyond the stars, in a place where blood and love transcend form, 2 souls waited side by side for the rest to join them. But Aunt Varley's life continued in classrooms, in gardens, in the laughter of green-haired children chasing fireflies under twin moons. The legacy endured not of war, not of blood alone, but of a human who drank an alien princess's essence and chose every day after to give his own in return. And so they lived not just peacefully, but joyfully, fully together forever.